Now, you may have noticed we've got a few little differences to the programme today. We're going to have a look at the business news, and Stephen's got a business wall to show you, haven't you, Stephen?
People can tell we're the same height now.
Exactly.
That's the real difference.
Very true. Facebook, you're starting with, though, aren't you?
I am starting with Facebook. It's emerged the social network has been collecting for years data from Android mobile users, including the length of phone calls and text messages. A spokesperson says that information only came from users who opted in and was never sold or shared. But it comes at a difficult time for Facebook when it's trying to dig its way out of the data harvesting scandal involving political research firm Cambridge Analytica. The social network took out a full-page advertisement in 9 British and American newspapers over the weekend, apologising to its users. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg is coming under increasing pressure to testify to US lawmakers over the scandal. Selena Sykes has more.
The pressure is piling on Mark Zuckerberg. Calls are being made for the founder of Facebook to testify in front of US lawmakers about the Cambridge Analytica data leak scandal, which has wiped 14%, more than $50 billion, off the social network giant's market value.
There are solutions, and what I invite Mr. Zuckerberg and others is come help work with us. Congress is not always at the best in terms of cutting-edge technology. They need to work with us so we try to get it right. I don't want to out-regulate these companies into oblivion, but I do think people need to have the ability to know whether information they're receiving is honest, truthful, or at least originates in this country.
Facebook is trying hard to salvage its reputation, running adverts in Sunday newspapers in the US and the UK in a bid to regain users' trust. The tech firm is now facing new questions over collecting personal data from Android devices. People accessing Facebook using an Android phone have reported finding that the social network had years of contact names, telephone numbers, call lengths and text messages. Facebook says it does not collect the content of messages or calls, but uses the information to rank contacts in its Messenger feature. The social network has promised to do better, but user confidence is low, with opinion polls in the US and Germany showing declining levels of trust.
Now, behind the scenes, the talks have been taking place between Beijing and Washington in an effort to avert a full-on trade war between the world's 2 largest economies. The Wall Street Journal says the United States has asked China to take steps, including cutting tariffs on American cars and opening up its financial sector to US firms. That's all in an effort to reduce the trade deficit between the countries, worth some $385 billion in 2016. Chinese exports to China worth almost $480 billion, the US announcing tariffs on $60 billion of those products. In response, the Chinese announcing tariffs of $3 billion on US exports to their country. Well, now, this story had sent stock markets tumbling towards the end of last week. Today, European shares have just opened. They had seen sharp falls last week as well. Things looking a little bit up this Monday, though. Those consultations between Beijing and Washington helping to boost investor sentiment. This is the picture across London, Paris and Frankfurt. Fairly moderate gains. The FTSE 100 in London still not back to that 7,000 points level, though, that it had been before last week's fall. So there is still some ground to be made up there on those markets. A similar picture in Paris and in Frankfurt as well. Over in Asia, shares had started out the day in the red over those trade tensions, but we did have somewhat of a recovery as the day went on. The Nikkei in Tokyo finishing up almost 0.75%, and in fact really just the Shanghai Composite managing to stay in negative territory towards the end of the day. Now, these markets are markets that have seen huge growth thanks to trade, so it's understandable that investors would feel pretty jittery over a potential trade war. Now, here in France next, the government has passed a significant milestone when it comes to its deficit. For the first time in 11 years, it dropped below 3% of GDP in 2017. Now, that's a good deal lower than in 2016 when the deficit was 3.4%. Now, this 3% level is important because Eurozone countries have to, by law, under European law, will have to keep their deficit below 3%. So we had 3.4% in 2016. That's come down significantly now to 2.6% for last year. That's in fact even less than what had been predicted by the French government, and it comes after years of spending cuts here in France. Now, America's oldest gun maker, Remington, has filed for bankruptcy protection. It's part of a debt-cutting deal with its creditors. The company has suffered from falling gun sales in the United States, but its business has also been affected by calls for greater gun control, which have pushed retailers and others to restrict weapons sales. And finally, for me, car imports into New Zealand have been hit by some unwanted hitchhikers. The country's National Statistics Office says that 8,000 cars were refused entry to New Zealand in February because of the discovery of stink bugs in the vehicles. Now, the insects had stowed away in containers coming from Japan. The move, in fact, cut car imports by a third in February. The government is putting in place extra inspections on the Japanese side to tackle the problem. Stuart, in case you were wondering, a stink bug is an insect. When you step in it, it emits a very unpleasant smell.
Oh, does it?
I'm told, yes.
Oh, OK.
Exactly.
They didn't have passports then, is that the problem?
No, well, that's exactly it. It was a border issue.
Exactly. Immigration issues with stink bugs. Stephen, thank you. Stephen with Business here on France 24. Good to see him standing up, isn't it?